All right, guys, today we're going to be doing a maintenance video, and we're going to be changing the drive belt or the serpentine belt on this 2.2 liter Ecotec. What we've got here is a 2009 Chevrolet Cobalt. The way I'm going to show you how to do this will be the same for a Pontiac G5 as well as some other GM cars that I'll put down in the description. Normally this is a straightforward job, right? You come down here, you zoom in, you can see the belt right peeking here through this air intake hose. You can see it running over the alternator and going under the tensioner over there. Normally it's a straightforward job, but on this particular body style, it's very difficult to get in there without doing a lot of extra work, and I'm going to show you how you can cut down on that extra work. A lot of people like to pull all of this out of here and take the motor mounts off, raise the motor, and try to go in from it that way. That's a lot of extra work. We're not going to be doing that today. Some people like to jack it up over on the side and remove the passenger side wheel and come in through from that side, and we're not going to do that either because that's also more work than I want to do. We're going to come in from underneath. We're going to put this on some ramps like we're changing the oil, and I'm going to show you how to pull this belt from underneath. Now first, if you haven't done one of these before, it's not a bad job, but let me show you a little bit about what's going on. So underneath on that engine that you saw in that view below, you've got a piece like this. Now this is not the tensioner from this particular engine, but it's a GM tensioner just to show you what's going on. And all these GM tensioners from this time period have this little casting in the aluminum that you can put a 3/8 inch square head tool into in order to actuate them. And typically you'd have a tool like this. It would go in there, and then you'd pull it towards the front, and that takes the tension off the belt. The problem on these models is you have to have something skinny like this to fit in there because the clearance, as you'll see shortly, won't allow you to get a 3/8 breaker bar or a 3/8 ratchet to fit. It's got to be a special tool. And these tools aren't expensive, and they're not hard to find, but you got to have one. So let's go ahead and get started with this process. I'm just going to walk you through step by step what you have to do, and we're going to go nice and fast. All right, guys, first turn the passenger side wheel all the way to the right, and then come in and it'll expose these two fasteners. One is a bolt that you'll take off with a 7mm socket, right? I won't necessarily bore you with removing the whole thing. And the other one is this little push pin that you'll need some kind of tool to come in here like this and trying to get the pin part to kind of let go, and then we can pull it out. If you haven't removed these before, they can be on here kind of tight. There he goes. All right, with him pushed out, then you can take the clip out. So we'll just finish taking the 7mm off, and we'll go to the next step. All right, guys, once you get these two fasteners out, pivot up to the left, closer to the strut. Right under the brake line is another push pin. Pull that guy out next, then straighten up the wheels, and let's get her on the ramp. All right, guys, once you get underneath, you got a few more of these fasteners to remove. There's another push pin right here. And this one we can see there's a little notch evident. They all have this, but sometimes it's not directly in your view. And when you have that little notch, it makes it easier to get this tool in here, right? So you move that little center piece up, and then you can push the bottom out. What happens is the center piece pushes the sides out, and that's what makes it hold things. Once you get this guy out, you've got another 7mm bolt here, right near the front. And then you follow this piece back, you got another 7mm bolt there to take out. And then following it back further, let me move the flashlight. On this cross piece, there's another push pin right there. One more there, and then right behind him is another one. So take those 5 out, and then we'll come back. All right, guys, with all those fasteners out, you took off the 3 on the inside of the wheel well when you had the tire turned, and then the 5 underneath. We can now pull this trim piece down out of our way, and we'll be able to come up under here and get access to our belt tensioner and pull our belt out. So let me get you in a spot where you can see me do that. All right, guys, and after you pull it down, just gently take this piece of plastic, bend it over this frame cross member to get it out of your way. Be very gentle with it because you don't want it to break. You just want to get it out of the way, right? And now with this out of the way, you got plenty of room to come in under here and pull the belt. All right, guys, and we're going to come up here with our tool. I might bump the camera here for you in just a moment. Just going to slide it into the slot. Now I'm going to pull it down to release the tension. And then with the tension down, I'm going to try to move the camera back here so you can see what I'm doing. Right here on the crankshaft, with that tension released, I'm going to work the belt off. Just like that. And then we can let it back down. And now with this tension out of the way, pull it back a little bit. With that tension out of the way, you can take the belt off of the alternator pulley up on top, pull it down past the tensioner, get it off the rest of the top of the crankshaft pulley up here, and remove it from the vehicle. All right, guys. Most of the time when you go to pick up a tool like this, like at Harbor Freight or something, it's going to look like this one. It's going to be a single one-piece design, and I've used this a lot of times, and it's been very successful for a lot of different GM vehicles. It's great. It's a fine tool. This particular car, though, it won't work. It fits, but you won't have the clearance. If you try to use this tool, you'll find that it'll hit the frame member when you try to use it from the underneath like we are, and you'll find that when you try to do it from taking the wheel off approach, it'll end up hitting the suspension components, and you'll find if you try to use it from the overhead position, taking the motor mount and everything off, you'll hit other things. It just gets in the way every which way from Sunday. The tool that you need to have is the same thing, but it's meant to be portable and be broken down like this. And this is the actual position that it needs to be in. And I'll put a link in the description to this particular tool because this is the one that works. Same tool. It would normally fold up like this in your toolbox. That's the only reason it's like this. And then the idea would be that you're supposed to pop this little pin in, and you end up getting the same tool as this. Exact same length too, by the way. But because it's portable, it actually helps us because we can pop the pin in like this, and we can come in the direction you saw with this end in the belt tensioner and this end right next to the CV boot on the front axle. And then we can pull it to the front and release the tension. This is the only tool that'll work on a Cobalt or a Pontiac G5 or any of these other vehicles that have this kind of real close clearance with the 2.2 liter Ecotec sitting inside of that engine bay. All right, guys, here's our original belt. And we can see some very large cracks. It was going to be imminent before it failed. So definitely way past time to be changed, and definitely a job that needed to be done. Simple job as long as you have the right tool. And that tool I showed before is not expensive. You can pick it up on Amazon. I'll put a link below. It's about 24 bucks. We're going to be replacing it with an ACDelco 126-34319. This belt is for vehicles with this engine that have an air conditioning compressor. This is from an era of vehicles where air conditioning was still an option. Some of them may not have air conditioning, and I'll put a link below to both this and the part number for the vehicles that do not have air conditioning. That way you're covered for both. Let's go ahead and get this guy installed. All right, guys, I like to bring the belt in from the top, feed it right down below, past the alternator. Make sure you try to get your writing where it's legible when you're standing on the passenger side tire. That's just a personal preference. We'll slide it down here and we'll get it looped up on top of the alternator. I'm going to have to block your view to do that. And then we'll pull it down the rest of the way from underneath. All right, there we go. All right, guys, putting the belt back on. In this view, I'll try to give you a perspective of the tool over on this angle. Just going to lift up on our tensioner like last time. We're going to work our belt onto the crankshaft pulley here. It's stuck on this end. There she goes. All right. Let the tension off. And then remove the tool. It's got a little detent ball in there, so sometimes you have to wiggle it a little bit to get it to come loose. And we are set. So now double check your work over the alternator, down and around the air conditioning compressor right over here, and then round the crankshaft pulley, and then underneath the tensioner and back up to the alternator. So now let's go ahead and give her a start and make sure she's running okay. All right, guys, she looks like she's running just fine. What you're trying to see is that everything's on the track correctly. I'm up on top, looking down, checking on it from under the hood as well. Just want to make sure that this is all okay before you reinstall your trim and get her off the ramps. All right, guys, and that's it. We've got this all buttoned back up. You did the test run, you saw, belt's on nice and good, trim's back in place, and everything's refastened down to the way we found it. I hope this video helps you out. Again, there's part numbers in the description for both the tools and the ACDelco belts, the two different types, with AC and without AC. If you got questions, leave them below, and I'll try to help. If you found this video useful, or it saved you some money, or it gave you a better way to do things, please take time to hit that like button. And as always, thanks for watching.